This is the story of something that happened to me one rainy night. I am going to tell you exactly how it happened, and I swear I didn't make anything up. You can believe me or not, but after you hear it, you might never look at a rainy night the same way again. It was a Thursday evening. I had just left my friend's place after a small get-together. Nothing big, just four of us watching an old horror movie, laughing, eating chips. Around 11 p.m. I stepped outside and realized the weather had completely changed. Rain was falling hard, thick like a sheet, and the air was cold enough to bite. I didn't bring an umbrella. My car was parked down the street, maybe a 5-minute walk. So I zipped up my hoodie, shoved my hands in my pockets, and started walking. The road was almost empty, only the sound of the rain hitting the pavement, the leaves, the rooftops. You know that eerie silence when everything feels still, but at the same time, your brain tells you something isn't right? That's how I felt. As I walked past the first block, I heard footsteps behind me. Quick ones. Like someone was walking fast but trying not to run. I stopped and turned. Nobody was there. I thought maybe it was just the rain playing tricks. Water drops hitting metal, leaves rustling. Sometimes it can sound like footsteps. I kept going, a little faster this time, but then I heard it again, closer. I turned around quickly, still no one. The street was empty, not even a cat or a bird. Now I was getting nervous. I've never been the paranoid type, but something about that night, that moment, it just felt off. I pulled out my phone and turned on the flashlight. The beam of light cut through the rain, but all it showed were wet sidewalks and trees swaying in the wind. When I reached my car, I quickly unlocked it and jumped in. I locked the doors the second I sat down. The windows fogged up instantly because of the cold and my breathing. I sat there for a moment, trying to calm down, telling myself it was all in my head. But then, I kid you not, I saw a handprint on the outside of the driver's side window. It was fresh, clear. 5 fingers spread out. I hadn't touched that window. My heart stopped for a second. I wiped the fog from the inside of the glass to see better, but by the time I looked again, the handprint was gone. Just vanished. I stared for a while, not sure if I had really seen it or just imagined it. Trying to shake it off, I started the car and drove off. I turned on the heater, the radio, tried to distract myself, but about 2 blocks down, I saw something that made my skin crawl. There was a woman standing under a streetlight, in the pouring rain, no umbrella. No coat. She was in a white dress, completely soaked. Her long black hair stuck to her face. She didn't move. I slowed down a little, my headlights lighting her up. She didn't look at me, didn't wave, didn't seem to care that a car was approaching. Now here's the weird part. I passed her, kept driving for about another minute, and when I looked in the rear view mirror, she was gone. Gone. Not walking, not standing, just gone. The street was empty. I felt a chill run down my spine. I didn't want to believe what I had seen, but my body reacted like it knew this was something beyond normal. I kept driving faster now. I just wanted to get home. My apartment was about 10 minutes away, and the faster I could get there, lock my door, and hide under a blanket, the better. But just when I thought it was over, something happened that I still can't explain. I stopped at a red light, no cars around. The rain was still pouring hard and my wipers were working overtime. Then I looked to my right. She was sitting in the passenger seat. The woman. Same white dress, same soaked hair. She was just sitting there facing forward. Her head slowly turned toward me and I saw her face. pale, like paper. Her eyes were completely black, no whites, no pupils, just black. I screamed. I actually screamed like a child. I flung open the door and jumped out of the car into the rain. I didn't care that I was getting soaked. I ran to the back of the car and looked through the window. No one was there. The seat was empty. I stood there shaking, breathing hard, completely drenched. I didn't know if I had lost my mind or if I had really seen her. I didn't want to get back in the car, but I couldn't stay out in the rain all night either. Eventually, I got back in, turned on all the lights, checked every corner of the car. Still nothing. I drove the rest of the way home like a madman, constantly checking the mirrors. When I got home, I ran inside, locked the door, turned on every single light in the apartment. I didn't sleep that night, not a minute. I just sat on my couch, shaking, replaying everything in my head. The next morning, it was sunny, like nothing had happened. But I checked my car before going out. There were wet footprints on the passenger side floor mat. Small ones, bare feet. That was the last time I ever drove in heavy rain at night. Now, whenever the weather turns like that, I stay in, no matter what. I told this story to a few friends. Some laughed, some believed me. But the weirdest part? A week later, one of my friends messaged me. He said he saw the same woman, standing under a streetlight, in the rain, wearing white, staring at him. He never drove that road again, so I don't know who or what she is. But if you ever see a woman standing alone on a rainy night, wearing a white dress, don't stop. Don't slow down. Don't look her in the eyes. Just keep driving, and pray she doesn't follow you home. This is the story of something that happened on a rainy night a few years ago. I've never told many people because it sounds too strange, too unbelievable. But I promise you, everything I'm about to say is real. It happened. And sometimes, when it rains hard and the wind howls outside, I still think about that night. It all started when I was driving back home from a weekend trip to my cousin's place in the hills. I had stayed a little longer than planned, and by the time I started heading back, it was already dark. The road back to the city went through a forest area, quiet, narrow, and with barely any streetlights. And just my luck, the rain started, pouring hard about 15 minutes into the drive. I should have stopped somewhere, but there was nowhere safe to park, and the idea of spending the night alone in my car in that forest didn't feel any better. So I kept going, driving slowly, watching the road through the smears of water on my windshield. The wipers were barely keeping up. The road twisted and turned, surrounded by tall trees on both sides. The only sound was the rain hitting the car roof and the occasional crack of thunder far away. My headlights lit up the road just enough to keep me moving, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Like I was being watched. You know that feeling? When your skin prickles and your stomach tightens for no reason? That's how I felt. Then I saw her. At first it was just a shape in the distance, standing at the side of the road. As I got closer, I could make her out clearly. A woman, standing still, soaked from head to toe, wearing a long black coat. She had her head down, her dark hair hanging over her face. Her hands hung by her sides. She wasn't waving for help, wasn't moving at all. I slowed down as I passed her, instinctively glancing at her face, or at least where her face should have been. But I couldn't see it, just hair, wet and clinging to her skin. I kept driving. Felt guilty leaving her out there in that storm, but something about her didn't feel right. It wasn't just that she was alone or quiet. It was the way she stood, so still, like a statue. But here's the creepy part. About 5 minutes later, I saw her again. Same woman, same coat, same way she was standing. This time, she was on the other side of the road, a few meters ahead. I swear to you. I hadn't seen any other path, no shortcut, nothing she could have used to get ahead of me. And yet, there she was again, like she had been waiting. I didn't stop. I didn't even slow down. I gripped the steering wheel tighter and kept my eyes on the road. Rain kept falling harder and the wind picked up. Branches moved like arms in the wind, and my heart started racing. I just wanted to get out of that forest and reach some kind of town or gas station, somewhere with people, lights, anything. And then it happened. My car jerked. Not like I hit something, but like something hit me. I looked in the rearview mirror and saw nothing. But a second later, my radio made this loud, screeching noise. It wasn't music. It wasn't static either. It sounded like whispering. Fast, overlapping voices I couldn't understand. I reached to turn it off, and that's when I saw her again. In the rearview mirror, she was sitting in the back seat. I swear I hadn't stopped the car. The doors were locked. I hadn't picked anyone up, but she was there, wet hair, pale skin. Her face was finely visible in the dim light. Her eyes were wide open, too wide. Her mouth was twisted into a strange smile, not human, like someone trying to fake what a smile should look like. I slammed the brakes and turned around. No one was there. The back seat was empty. The rain kept falling outside. I was shaking all over. I didn't know what was real anymore. My breathing was heavy and my clothes were damp with sweat. I looked again. Still nothing. I started driving again, faster this time, not caring about the slippery road or the curves. Ahead. Then through the rain and lightning I saw lights, a gas station. I nearly cried in relief. I pulled in fast, parked, and ran inside. There was an old man at the counter looking sleepy but friendly. I told him everything. I didn't even care how crazy I sounded. I just needed someone to listen, to tell me I wasn't losing my mind. The old man looked at me for a long moment. Then he said something I'll never forget. "You're not the first one to see her." I stared at him. He went on to explain that many drivers who passed through that road during heavy rain had reported seeing the same woman. She always appeared alone, always in the same coat, standing silently, or worse, appearing in the back seat. And it always happened on rainy nights. Some said she was a ghost from an accident years ago, a young woman who had died on that road after being left behind in a storm. Some believed she was a warning, appearing to people who were about to crash. Others said she was something else entirely, something that fed off fear. I stayed at the gas station for over an hour, too afraid to leave. When the rain finally calmed down, I thanked the man and drove the rest of the way back during early morning light. Nothing strange happened after that, but for weeks I kept checking my back seat every time I got into my car. Every sound at night made me jump. And when it rained, even just a little, I made sure I was safe at home. I haven't driven that road since, and I never will. So, if you ever find yourself alone on a dark road in the middle of a storm, and you see a woman standing by the side, soaked, silent, with her head down, don't stop. Don't look back. And whatever you do, don't let her in. Because once she's in, she never really leaves. This is the story of something truly terrifying that happened to me one rainy night. I never believed in ghosts or strange happenings until that night. Now, whenever I hear rain tapping against my window, I remember it all too clearly. And I swear to you, every word I'm about to tell you is true. It was a Friday evening. I had stayed late at the small library where I worked. It wasn't part of the job, really. I just liked the silence, the smell of old books, the comfort of being surrounded by stories, but I lost track of time. And by the time I stepped outside, the sky had already turned dark, and rain had started falling heavily. I wrapped my coat tighter around me and hurried to my car, which was parked just behind the library. The streets were almost empty, just the sound of rain and distant thunder in the background. I started the car and began driving through the quiet town roads. I only lived about 15 minutes away, but that night, it felt like the longest drive of my life. About halfway home, the rain got worse, so bad I could barely see through the windshield. The wipers swished back and forth like crazy, and still, the road ahead was a blurry mess of lights and shadows. I was passing by the old cemetery. It stretched along the right side of the road, lined by a rusted black fence and crooked tombstones. I hated this part of the road. It always felt heavy, like the air itself didn't want to move there. But that night, it was worse. That's when I saw someone on the side of the road. It was a girl, walking slowly, soaked from head to toe. She wore a simple white dress that clung to her body from the rain. Her hair was long and dark, stuck to her face. She looked so out of place. I slowed down without thinking, rolled down the window a little and called out, "Are you okay? Do you need help?" She didn't answer. She just stopped and looked at me. And even in the rain and darkness, I could see her eyes. They were wide and pale, lifeless. I felt something twist in my stomach. Something was wrong with her. Very wrong. Still, I didn't want to leave her in the rain like that. "Do you want to ride?" I asked. She nodded slowly, still not blinking, and walked toward the car. I don't know what got into me, but I unlocked the passenger side door. She got in without a word, water dripping all over the seat. She sat perfectly still, hands on her lap, staring straight ahead. Her skin was ice cold. I tried to ask her name, where she lived, if she was hurt, but she stayed silent. I should have trusted my gut, but I kept driving. Every few seconds, I'd glance at her. She never looked at me, never spoke, but the strangest thing was, there was no sound of her breathing. None. Just the rain pounding on the car and the wind hissing through the trees. Suddenly, my car made a loud clunking noise and started to slow down. I cursed under my breath. "Come on, not now." The engine light flashed. I pulled over near an old bus stop. The whole road around us was empty. No houses, no stores, no people. Just trees, rain, and the cemetery far behind us. I turned to the girl to apologize, but she wasn't in her seat. She was gone. Gone. Takurita. Passenger door hadn't opened. The seat was wet, the imprint of her body still there, but she was no longer sitting beside me. I turned on the car light and looked around wildly. Nothing. Then, suddenly, there was a soft whisper. I froze. It came from the back seat. I turned around. Slowly, she was sitting there, in the back seat, smiling. But it wasn't a normal smile. It stretched too wide, too unnatural. Her teeth looked too many, too sharp. Her eyes were still wide open, and her head tilted ever so slightly as if studying me. My heart nearly stopped. I fumbled for the door, jumped out of the car into the cold rain, and slammed the door shut. I ran a few steps away, breathing hard, heart pounding like a drum in my chest. When I turned back, the car was empty again. The lights inside had gone off. The seats were dry. I told myself I was seeing things, that maybe I had imagined it. Maybe I was too tired, or the storm had gotten to me. But I didn't get back in. I waited at the bus stop, shaking, soaking wet, until finally a pickup truck passed by and stopped to help. The man inside was kind, older. He took one look at me and said, "You look like you've seen a ghost." I didn't answer right away. I was too shaken. He offered to take me into town, and I accepted. As we drove away, I told him everything that had happened. He didn't laugh or call me crazy. Instead, he nodded slowly and said, "You picked her up, didn't you? The girl by the cemetery?" I looked at him in shock. "You know about her?" He kept his eyes on the road. "Lots of folks do. She died out here over 20 years ago, hit by a car on a rainy night right outside that cemetery. Driver never stopped. Her body was found days later. Since then, people have said she appears during storms, always looks lost, always in white." He paused. "And if you stop, sometimes she gets in." I didn't say anything. I didn't have to. When he dropped me off at a diner, I thanked him, still shaken. I sat inside until the storm passed, watching the rain run down the windows. I never went back for that car. I sold it the next day, and now I never drive alone in the rain, especially near that road, especially near the cemetery. So if you ever find yourself driving on a rainy night and you see a girl in white, walking slowly, soaking wet, don't. Stop, don't look at her too long. And whatever you do, don't let her in. Because once she's in your car, she never really leaves. This is the story of something that happened to my friend James on a rainy night. A night so strange and terrifying that it changed him forever. I swear to you, he was never the same after that. And once you hear what happened, you'll understand why. It all started one cold autumn evening. James had just finished visiting his parents, who lived in a quiet little village about 2 hours from where he lived in the city. He stayed longer than planned, and by the time he got back in his car to head home, the rain had already started. Not a gentle drizzle, but hard, heavy rain. Thick drops pounding on the windshield like a drumbeat. He wasn't too worried, though. James had driven in worse weather before. But that night, something was different. The roads were nearly empty, just darkness, wind, and endless rain. He turned on his headlights, set his favorite playlist, and tried to relax. But the storm only got worse. Trees along the side of the road shook wildly. Lightning lit up the sky every few minutes, followed by thunder that made the car vibrate. James told me later he had a strange feeling deep in his chest, like something was watching him. He kept checking the rearview mirror, even though there was no one behind him. It made no sense, but the feeling wouldn't go away. Then around 11 p.m., James took a shortcut, a narrow country road that wound through farmland and forest. It wasn't well lit, but it would shave off 20 minutes from his trip. That's where it happened. As he turned onto that narrow road, his headlights hit a figure standing just off the shoulder, a woman. She was standing completely still, wearing a thin red coat soaked from head to toe. Her hair was dark, plastered to her face, and she looked like she had been walking in the rain for hours. James slowed down. He could have just driven past. Maybe he should have. But he was a good guy, always trying to help people. So he pulled over, rolled down the window and said, "Do you need help?" The woman didn't speak at first. She just stood there, staring at him with a blank expression. Then slowly she nodded. James leaned over and opened the passenger door. "Hop in. You'll freeze out there." She got in without saying a word. Water pooled on the seat beneath her. She looked about 30, pale, with deep, shadowed eyes. James tried to start a conversation, asked her name, if she lived nearby, but she said nothing, not one word. He figured maybe she was in shock. Maybe she'd been in an accident or something. He kept driving, and after a few miles he asked again, gently, "Where should I drop you?" That's when she finally spoke. Her voice was soft, almost too quiet to hear. "Back where I died." James thought she was joking, or maybe he heard her wrong. "What did you say?" But she didn't answer. She just turned her head slowly toward him and stared. And James said he felt it. That chill, like ice had slid down his back. He looked back, at the road. When he looked at the passenger seat again, she was gone, completely gone. No door opened, no sound, no movement. The seat was wet, like someone had been there, but it was empty. James slammed on the brakes. The car skidded on the wet road and came to a stop. He sat there breathing hard, trying to understand what just happened. Was it a trick of the light? A hallucination? But then in the rearview mirror he saw her. She was in the back seat. He turned around, and she was gone again. James got out of the car. Rain soaked him instantly, but he didn't care. He stood in the middle of that narrow road, turning in, circles, heart racing, looking for her. Nothing. Finally, he got back in the car, locked the doors, and started driving. He didn't care where. He just wanted to get away from that road. After about 10 minutes, he saw lights, an old gas station, still open. He pulled in, parked, and rushed inside. There was an old man behind the counter sipping coffee. James must have looked like a wreck, soaking wet, pale, eyes wide. The old man raised an eyebrow. "Storm's rough tonight, huh?" James nodded, catching his breath. "You ever see anything strange on that back road through the forest?" The old man stared at him for a moment, then put his coffee down. "You saw her, didn't you?" James felt his stomach drop. "What do you mean?" The man came around the counter, walked over to a bulletin board on the wall, and pointed to an old newspaper clipping, yellowed, curled at the edges. The headline read, "Young woman killed on rainy night. Body found on Forest Road." The photo below it was blurry but clear enough. James froze. It was her. The man said, "She was hit by a car 20 years ago. Driver never stopped. Some folks say she wanders that road when it rains, gets into people's cars. She never speaks, unless she wants to." James felt dizzy. He thanked the man, got back in the car, and drove the rest of the way home with the lights on inside the cabin. He didn't look in the mirrors. He didn't stop. Not until he was safely parked in front of his building. You'd think that would be the end of the story, but it wasn't. For weeks afterward, James kept hearing strange things, tapping at his windows during storms, whispers in the hallway. Once, he even saw wet footprints on his floor, even though he lived alone. And worst of all, every time it rained, he'd find his car door unlocked, and the passenger seat soaking wet. He had the car cleaned, changed the locks, even bought a new one, but it didn't stop. Whatever he let in that night, it followed him. James eventually moved far away. He doesn't drive at night anymore, and when it rains, he lights a candle and keeps every light in his house on. He told me this story only once. And when he did, he looked me straight in the eyes and said, "If you ever see a woman standing by the road in the rain, don't stop. Keep driving, no matter what." And I believe him. So should you.